All right, good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to KnightCASTle episode 8. I'm your host, Demetrius Montero, with my co host,
Matthew Feldman.
and we are the UCF sports writers of the UCF Roundtable. I'll have the QR code up at the top left or top right of the screen toward the end of the episode so you guys can scan that. But today, we're going to be recapping the Oklahoma State victory. Scott Frost sending his seniors out with a dub, and um, UCF flipping their highest star quarterback commit, previewing BYU, and we're going to talk about men's hoops versus Quinnipiac tomorrow. So first, let's start with Oklahoma State. I wrote the gamer for that, and whew, that was a pretty close game. It was Knights narrowly escaped that. I was pretty frustrated with how they played in that first half because although it's going to sound a bit disrespectful to Oklahoma State, but you shouldn't have Oklahoma State score 14 straight points in the first half. It's they haven't done that since they lost to Baylor earlier in the season, and they put up, I think, 17 or 20 points, but they haven't put up 14 points in a half consistently in the entire season. More than that, they haven't shut out a team in the first half in the entire season. So, we talked about, coming out with a little bit of edge with a chip on your shoulder, especially with, bowl contention at your fingertips. You lose this game and you don't have a bowl. You don't. So you come out a lackluster, and Oklahoma State scores 14 straight. Taven Jackson throws 2 interceptions, and it's like, no, 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 you can't do that. It's like Frost was talking about sending his seniors out with a victory, and for the first half, it looked like you were going to send them out on a loss, an embarrassing loss at that.
Yeah.
So it was good to see them come back in the second quarter. I mean, the second half. Taven and Dylan Wade, all of a sudden, they had this crazy connection in the second half. First play of the third quarter, 83-yard touchdown, got him back in the game. Uh, Dylan Wade in the post game presser, he was like, it was just a touchdown. We got to chip away at the lead, and they did that when they were also forcing a little bit of turnovers, and Taven was able to have another touchdown. Dylan Wade, it was a 2-yard touchdown. So they were able to tie the game in the fourth quarter, which is good, and they were able to get a stop. I think it was 5 or 6 plays Oklahoma State had, punted the ball, and then the Knights have possession of the ball. 10 plays later, Frost sends kicker Noe Ruelas out there for the game-leading 34-yard field goal, and the Knights had one more job to do with a minute left in the game. They needed to get a stop, and they got more than a stop. Braden Marshall intercepted Zane Flores and sealed the deal, was able to send his seniors out with a victory. And now the Knights are one game away from a bowl berth against number 11 BYU. It's going to be an extremely tough matchup, but one game is one game. And you and I know in sports, one game is all it takes. All it takes. You could have some miraculous performance from anybody. Jaden Nixon can go off for 150 yards, and that's not something you account for, but you needed it in that one game. Um, since I watch basketball a lot, I watch the Lakers a lot, with a Laker community. And one of the things we always say about things that just don't often happen is like we say that's fake. Like, yeah, no, that's fake. Like that's what you need in this game against BYU next week. We need something fake to happen, something that doesn't usually happen. You need that. So it's good to see that you were able to send your seniors off with the victory in their last home game in front of 41,000 fans, and you're one game closer to a bowl berth. So you got to take this week as serious as possible and hope you can upset a top ranked team. So, what are your thoughts on the Oklahoma State game?
Yeah, I mean, you put it out there on the platter pretty well. I did not watch much of the first half, thankfully, probably, but I did see a lot of the second half, including that big first play of the third quarter to D Wade. We've talked about profusely being aggressive, um, and that's about as aggressive as you can be first play out of the third quarter. I'd like to see that start from the beginning because we clearly continue to struggle with the run game, especially in between the tackles. And I'll compare it to another sport as well. I'm a Bucks fan, as you can see from the flag, and we do the same thing. And I sit there and I wonder, why do we keep beating the dead horse of running up the middle, running up the middle? Now we're behind, and now Taven has to make something happen, which most of the time that's what contributes to his mistakes. Which in this game he had two in the first half, and then you saw the second half. We had the ball a lot more because our defense was playing so well, and he didn't make any mistakes. But we were pushing the ball down the field. He had that big completion to Dylan Wade for the touchdown. That's a confidence boost for a player that has been struggling. We know Taven has been struggling. It's kind of like seeing a shot go in basketball. Like he saw one go, he put it on the money, and Dylan Wade did the rest. And from there, our offense started to flourish a little bit. But really, it was the defense in the second half. You mentioned Oklahoma State hadn't scored that much in a couple weeks. Well, in the second half, we gave up 22 total yards to them, which that is shut down. That's the definition of shut down.
That's as shut down as it can get.
Yeah, and I think 17 or 16 of them were one drive towards the end of the game. So I think the whole third quarter they had less than 10 yards, and then obviously the Braden Marshall interception to seal it. That was great. Another shout out I want to give is Waden Charles, the freshman. He had 6 catches, 78 yards. When his number's been called, it seems like he's heeded the call pretty well, and he'll be a good developmental piece for we'll talk about it, but whoever's at that quarterback position next year. But, like you said, it's good that we got a win for our seniors. Maybe wasn't the smoothest sailing of victory. But if we could get two full halves of that second half UCF Knights team against BYU, which it's on the road, we are yet to win a game on the road, but it's like you said, why can't this be the first? It's sports, and um, we'll talk about BYU, but yeah, good win.
Yeah, really good win. So we'll also talk about something that happened during the game, and this one was pretty groundbreaking. Uh, Four-star quarterback Rocco Marriott flipped his commitment from James Madison to UCF, and I think if I remember correctly, he is the highest star that UCF has ever had, that the football program at the quarterback position has ever had. So I'm not too familiar with the situation prior to him flipping his commitment, but the fact that you were able to get a guy, super high ranked, 6'4", 215, dual threat quarterback, which is something that Scott Frost has always looked for, especially in his tenure here. Taven, though he's more of a pocket passer, you can run. Jacurri runs the ball. Cam Fancher, Davi Belfort. So they're continuing the trend of locking up dual threat quarterbacks for their position. And it's pretty shocking to see that they were able to flip a guy, especially someone who is their highest star at that position. But that also made them lose out on Kane Archer. Kane Archer decommitted shortly after the news, which is unfortunate. But I mean, when you go after in your eyes and when UCF's eyes, they think is the better player, then you have every right to go, they went after someone else. There's already a big quarterback battle there. I'm going to, reopen my commitment elsewhere. It kind of sucks because a lot of people were on the Kane Archer train. A lot of people covered the Kane Archer commitment and all that stuff. So, I mean, now UCF still has something to look for with Rocco Marriott, and it'll be another interesting quarterback situation heading into next season.
Oh, yeah.
Taven Jackson, Davi Belfort, Jacurri Brown. If Cam Fancher gets a medical red shirt, Cam Fancher, and if he stays, So the quarterback position next season, it's going to be interesting. We're going to have another battle to cover. So I think it's pretty nice that you were able to get such a high ranked quarterback to flip his commitment. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest get in this Frost era of UCF. As you mentioned, he's our highest ranked recruit. He's a 4-star on just about every ranking app you can find. Yeah, the first thing that jumped off the page for me is his frame. As you said, he's 6'4", 220. Um, I've seen a couple clips of him play, and you can tell which one he is if you know his frame because he looks so much bigger than who he's playing against. And that's something that you can't teach. So him having that already um, is definitely a benefit. He plays for Platte County High School in Missouri. This year they're 12-0, and this past Friday he had 7 total touchdowns, 5 through the air, 2 on the ground, and over 370 yards. So the guy can play, obviously, according to his ranking and the stats, and he's winning, which is another important thing to me. Um, I'm also kind of sad about Kane Archer leaving because there was a lot of hype around him, and he had been committed to us since April, and he said how excited he was to get down here, and he believed in something special. Um, it's kind of as you said, it's you know we saw an opportunity to get a guy that the coaches obviously view as a bit more polished maybe or advanced in his development. So we had to do what we had to do. And Kane Archer this week was signing week, so I was kind of worried that this would impact his ability to go somewhere where he belongs, but he actually announced his commitment to Utah shortly after, so he'll be staying in the Big 12. It's a good possibility we'll see him down the line. That's very interesting.
That'll be a quarterback battle for the for the game.
Yeah, that's some good coverage right there. But yeah, I mean, it's uh, very exciting to see that Frost is having this kind of impact, even though maybe the season hasn't gone, according to plan. But we've talked about the culture that he's building and the changes from prior leadership to this year. And, we've had only a handful of guys enter the transfer portal, which is also very encouraging. And now this kid, obviously, Rocco flipping. And also, another thought that came to my mind his last name is going to be perfect for NIL deals. He lives in the heart
Yeah.
of Spell Land. So Marriott better get called because that's money. I could see him, at the focus of a commercial in a Marriott. Hey, I'm Rocco
The
Marriott.
Marriott sponsoring the Marriott.
Yeah. So, hey, Marriott, if you need a manager to make that happen, let me know. But
Hey, yeah, I mean, you never know.
a great get for the program.
Yeah. To kind of piggyback off your culture comment, yeah, it's nice to see that Frost is building something and he's building it rapidly. This isn't like your typical rebuild where you're going to be, bad for a few years. Frost won 5 games this year, could make a bowl game, and he's still continuing to build a great team. You have young guys at the receiving core like Wade and Charles. Still got young guys at the running back position. Um, even with special teams, you have some young guys there. So you're building a great culture, and when you have a 4-star quarterback flip his commitment, I think that says a lot about the program, and that kind of puts other recruits on notice. Like, yo, you got a 4-star quarterback flipping his commitment to UCF. What's UCF about? And so now it could open up the path to getting more high rank 3 stars who could be 4 stars, 4 stars, and maybe a 5-star down the line. Who knows? Um, so culture is important, not only just when building a team, but recruiting. And I think Mackenzie Milton, the quarterbacks coach, has done an amazing job of getting guys to commit, and he's always one of the first people to be named when you go interview like a recruit. When you go interview Kane Archer, when you go interview Dante Carr, you know Coach Milton is one of the few coaches that will come out of there, that they'll name, just off rip, boom. So when you have a guy who could, really connect with recruits, I mean, that's big when it comes to culture and recruiting. So it's nice to see that Frost is rapidly building a culture that could supercharge how quick the rebuild will be for UCF. And who knows, could UCF make a college football playoffs? Could they, upset a few teams in the next couple years and be one of the better Big 12 teams in the country? Who knows? But time will tell. And to move on from that, staying in Utah, as you mentioned, Kane Archer committed to Utah. I don't know how far Provo, Utah is from wherever the Utah Utes play at, but next week the Knights will travel to Provo, Utah, and face number 11 BYU for their chance at a bowl berth. It's going to be a tough game because it's on the road, and UCF has not won on the road. I don't think UCF has either recorded turnovers on the road. I think that's something Alex Grinch preached about last week. He was very frustrated at the fact that his defense couldn't commit any turnovers on the road. I think the last time the Knights had a turnover on the road was against Kansas State, and that was a Damari Henderson pick from a trick play. So, like, that's forever four score and 100,000 years ago, right? So Grinch just preached that the turnover battle most likely will lead to you winning a game. If it's in your favor, and as much as the offense will need to be productive, we've talked about it until we're blue in the face. Long, efficient drives. It doesn't matter if you're scoring. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're scoring, but putting yourself in the most opportune position to score. But it's really going to be the defense. Can you generate turnovers and really keep the ball out of BYU's hands? Because they have some playmakers on the offensive end. They have two wide receivers who are top 10 in receiving yards in the Big 12. It's Chase Roberts and Parker Kingston. They both combined for 9 touchdowns. Roberts has 5, while Kingston has 4. So, UCF has always gone up against ranked teams that have really good offensive weapons. And if you want a chance to win, you have to make them turn the ball over. You have to keep the ball out of your hands too. So, I think that'll be a big key. That'll be a big point of emphasis against BYU, especially if you want to make a bowl game. But what are your thoughts, and what do you think the Knights should do if they want to win and upset Utah? I mean, upset BYU.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard. We've struggled profusely on the road. They're a very similar team to Texas Tech by what I look like or what I've seen, which is actually their only loss on the season was Texas Tech. So what I was going to say, we need to have that second half performance against Oklahoma State for 2 halves to even have a chance. Because one thing that they do really well is they have long sustained drives. They have a good offensive balance. You mentioned the 2 receivers. I was going to focus on their running back. Their running back is LJ Martin. He has over 1,100 yards, and he's averaging almost 6 yards per carry. So that means every 2 times he touches the ball, he's moving the chains, which we're going to need to shut him down, which our run defense has been pretty good. I feel like most of the time it's the pass that burns us. They have a pretty good freshman quarterback as well, Bear Bachmeyer. Great name, by the way. And he's a dual threat, kind of similar to, most of the guys we've seen this year. But he has 24 touchdowns, and 11 of them are on the ground. So we're going to need to be disciplined on defense. We're going to need to, find those 2 receivers that you mentioned and make sure that they don't touch the ball, but also make spying Bachmeyer, making sure that he's not able to leave the pocket, extend plays, use his athleticism. And then, offensively, we've said it a lot of times, but we need to stay aggressive. I think even his best ball that I've seen is a deep ball. for whatever reason that may be, quarterbacks like tossing it deep, some like, tossing it short, but it seems like most of the time when he's pushing the ball down the field, that's when we have success. Earlier in the year, we were popping a lot of big plays. That's kind of disappeared as of late, except
Hmm.
for last game, the 83-yarder. But if we're keeping him protected, giving him time to load up and launch that thing down the field, I think that's where we can attack them. And you know, it's going to take two full halves. It's going to take two full halves of good football. And um, Frost kind of mentioned, like, at this point in the season, you kind of are what you are. There's not really a lot of room for, I mean, obviously we can continue to grow this week up and coming, but we're not going to have some big 360 to where all of a sudden we can, run the ball up the middle and we're looking like some, top 10 offense in the league. So we're going to have to play our style of football to the best way that we can play it. And hopefully the defense can limit their opportunities and get the ball in Taven's hands.
Yeah, I agree. To kind of piggyback off LJ Martin, BYU is second in the Big 12 in rushing yards, and obviously Martin is the biggest reason why for that. As you said, over 1,100 yards. That's a workhorse running back. That's a workhorse running back. So you got to be able to stop the run, neutralize him, because if you can neutralize him and the receivers, or do at least a so-so job on one of those two areas, and I think you're pretty set to have a good game, at least a good fight against BYU. And you got to come out guns blazing. Texas Tech did that. Texas Tech put up 14 in the first quarter. Could have been 21 to be fair. So you got to come out guns blazing like Texas Tech did, and really put Utah on their heels. Like, yo, it's not UCF. Like, we got to take them seriously now. So you got to put them in a position where it's like, all right, we got to respect the run, we got to respect the pass. Obviously, that comes with good pass blocking. The receivers have to get off their man. They have to find the soft spots in the zone, etc., etc. So offense has to be able to really find the weak spots in the defense and make it tough on BYU. Keep the BYU defense out there for long stretches so that once you get the ball back, if BYU offense doesn't have a long drive, the defense is tired. So now they can't make adjustments quick. They can't, figure out what is Taven audibling, or where is Taven going to throw the ball? Oh crap, I missed my man. He's wide open. Stuff like that. You just need those lapses in BYU's defense to actually stand a chance and upset them. And it would be a really big upset, more than just a bowl game. You upset a ranked team, and it's your first road victory. So you really got to come out and play guns blazing. That
And
second half.
go ahead, sorry.
No, you good. You can
And
go.
we mentioned, like the recruiting trail, and maybe it hasn't gone as great as we wanted it for the season. But if you upset BYU, like you said, you're not only getting us into a bowl game, but you're also kind of playing spoiler for their chances because they're vying for a college football playoff bid. I think in the last rankings they were right on the outside. So, they're going to want to put up a good performance on us too, especially for the voters who do a lot of stuff based on eye test and, do you belong? Because Texas Tech is, I think, even if they lose in the Big 12 championship, they're probably in. So BYU's got some work to do to get in. And, that's something important to mention because some of these games towards the end of the year, they might be looking ahead or, take their foot off the gas pedal. But for both teams, it's a big win, either way you look at it. And also, it'd be a huge, you know, end to the season for transfer portal guys. Oh, how did UCF end their season? They walked into Provo and beat number 11 BYU, and then they won a bowl game. That's a lot more enticing for a person looking for a new home than missed a bowl game, can't
Hmm.
win on the road. Like, so the narratives for the offseason could also be affected by a win on Saturday.
Yeah, they could shift. Who knows? It may even, like I said earlier, Frost's culture, he could really speed that up. If you win against BYU, you've gone from supercharging it to going from point A to point 24 of the alphabet. I can't think of the alphabet letters off the top of my head, but you get my point. Um, so yeah, I mean the narratives. If the narratives, oh, imagine beating BYU. Imagine the reason why you get X recruit is because they saw UCF upset BYU. Like, I think that's big. So UCF has to treat this game. It can't just be because Frost has said, I just want the guys to go out and have fun. And I get that. It's a great mindset to have. You never want to treat it as if like it's life or death, and this is you're never doing anything if you lose. I get the mindset of go out there, have fun, fight against a good team and win. Nah, low key, just a little bit. I need this to be a life or death situation
Yeah.
because this could really change how things operate for UCF and how things will end for them this season and how things will start for them next season. So, with that, episode 8 of the podcast will come to a close. I'm your host, Demetrius Montero, with my co host,
Matthew Feldman.
and we are the UCF sports writers of the UCF Roundtable. Quick, top left, here's the QR code for the Roundtable site. Make sure you scan that if you're on another device watching on your iPad, computer, TV, anything that isn't your phone, and create an account, join the Roundtable. Obviously, interact with our stories, but more importantly, create community posts of anything you see UCF related. Oh, hey guys, women's basketball did this. Post it. Oh, hey, men's basketball player had this achievement. Post it. Always, we love the interactions. We love to interact with you guys and all that jazz. And last but not least, make sure you like and subscribe, hit the bell to turn on notifications. So because we drop episodes every Mondays and Fridays. Speaking of that, we will not have an episode on Friday because Thanksgiving is Thursday, and we'll both be busy with family on Friday. So just giving you guys a heads up, but we will come back and get back to regular scheduled time next Monday, filling you guys in on the result of BYU, catching up with men's hoops, and anything outside of the UCF realm that's still somewhat UCF. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in for episode 8 of the KnightCASTle, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.